All right, today we are focusing on I can prove two triangles are similar, and I can prove why angle shows similarity. Okay, so let's think about this. So the properties for proving triangle congruence. You learned this last year, supposedly. It was the thing. So the triangles that proved it were like side, side, side. Remember this? This means that all three sides were already congruent. So an example would be I have that side is congruent to that side, this side is congruent to this side, and lastly, this side is congruent to this side. Okay? One of the other ones you had was side angle side. And this is saying if I have two sides of a triangle, pretend those are congruent. Just use your imagination. So that angle and that side. If I had side angle side, if I could prove that those were congruent, then the triangles themselves were congruent. The last properties, which I consider them to be the same thing, would be angle, angle side, and angle side angle. Notice that there's two angles. So these two ideas is that you have, so we'll do this first one. You have this angle, and you have congruent to this angle. And you have this angle congruent to this angle, and you have a side, not between the two angles, marked as congruent. The other one is just saying that the side between the two angles is marked as congruent. Do you see why I think they're the same? So you have angle, then this time it's side, and then the other angle. Okay? All three of those properties prove congruence. So if you have two angles and one side, you can prove they're congruent. If you have side angle side, so the two sides and the angle between them, you can prove it's congruent. And if you have all three sides, you can prove it's congruent. Properties that don't work for proving congruence are angle, angle. The reason why is because you have no reference for side lengths. So if the angles are congruent, great, but you can't prove that they're the same size. Okay, interestingly enough, they do prove something else, but not congruence. Okay, another one is angle side side. And the reason for this is because if the angle is not because there are multiple options for the third side. And just so you know, most of the time it's written this way. I think it's silly. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so here's our similarity postulates. We can claim that two triangles are similar, meaning that their sides have a proportion between them and that their angles are all congruent, if all we have is two angles congruent. Now think about that. If we have two angles marked as congruent, we can automatically figure out the last one, because all three angles of a triangle add to 180. So isn't that interesting? So we've got our angle similarity, saying that if two angles are congruent, then we can say that the two triangles are similar. We have side angle side similarity. So if you can make a proportion between two sides, so let's say this was 6 and 18, and this was 2 and 6. I should have picked other numbers. Let's go with 3 and 9. There we go. Then I can say, if those sides are proportionate and the angle between them is congruent, then I can say that these triangles are similar. Okay, notice that the similarity statements puts the congruent angles with the congruent angles. Like angle A is congruent to angle Q, so they are in the same spot. Okay, the last one is side-side-side similarity, which means we can make a proportion between all three sides, and all three sides will be equal, like those three fraction sides. Okay, so now we're going to use these properties to help us out. So first off, we're going to try and figure out if these two triangles are similar. We're given 39 degrees and 51 degrees. I can easily find, well, and 90 degrees. I can easily find the missing angle in one of them. I'm going to pick the 39 one. So I'm going to do 180 minus 90 minus 39, and I get 51 degrees. So if that's 51 degrees, these two triangles share two angles, at least. They'll share all three. So I can say that these triangles are similar by angle similarity. Notice it's not congruence, it's similarity. It matters. Okay, I want you guys to go ahead and give this one a shot, and we'll come back together right here, all right?